Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and joining me as always is our other Real to Real talker, Paul Britton, as we get ready to talk movies yet again on another week here on the show. Paul,
is that what we're doing?
Welcome. That's what we're doing, man.
We're talking movies?
We're talking movies. You know why?
Why?
Because I just finished up vacation and I had time to watch movies. So
yeah, dog. Get her.
Yeah, dog. I love that.
Get her.
Yeah, it was a relaxing few days, and yeah,
awesome
movies were watched.
Yeah.
Several different kinds of movies.
Yes,
but a few that we're going to talk about here on this week's episode, as we, to use your term, it was sort of genre specific.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
So let's just say, this is esoteric, going back a year, or plus, to January of 2022, and we do our episode of looking forward and seeing, hey, what movies are we looking forward to for the rest of the year? And this is last year, not this year's. And we saw Avatar and Aquaman sitting on the same date in December.
Right.
And we said, then there's no way both of those movies are coming out that day. Like, you just don't do that. You don't do those are very similar, if not identical, in their genres, and you just don't do that. And that the makers of both of these movies, Renfield and The Pope's Exorcist, weren't looking at, did that guy really pick that date for that release? And the other one was like, I'm not moving. The other one, and they're like, I'm not moving either. And so neither one of them moved. It's a head scratcher. I'm not gonna lie. It's a head scratcher why both of these sat on this particular date and didn't budge.
Right. And head scratcher because neither one was such that it made a huge impact.
I would have been so happy to see either one of these in early February, late January.
Sure.
That would have just been super pleasant.
Yeah. Well, and fun, humorously enough, both movies, well, not both, one in particular that would be more horror-ish in terms of its genre, not only because you put the word Exorcist into a title and I'm okay with horror films.
I am in.
Right? 100%. Horror movies generally not my genre.
No, neither one of us really.
But there's something about zombies and Exorcist that just,
Can I just say it's really weird that we both and we've talked about this a lot before, where we've said we're not horror folks, but big huge but you give me a zombie or you give me an exorcism, I'm there happily.
I don't know what that says about us, but
I don't know. And it's weird. It's just maybe those two just are offer just enough that's not straight up horror, that it's and honestly, for me, I have come to find out in my what the hell did I just watch segments, I have come to find out that what I really don't like are slasher movies.
Okay.
And slasher movies are what most people talk about when they say horror. Whereas there's a lot of horror out there that has absolutely nothing to do with slasher movies. And I like those. And zombies and exorcisms really don't lend themselves to slasher. So it turns out okay.
Well, I mean, it's already enough.
Right.
Now, maybe one day we'll get a zombie exorcism movie, and then we'll definitely not know what to do. So, so with that, there are two films we'll look at this week. The first that released this past week, the first is The Pope's Exorcist, and we'll also be taking a look at Renfield in our movie reviews this week. So as we get started, right off the bat, Paul, I will say that when I saw trailers for this movie, The Pope's Exorcist, Russell Crowe is always going to be enough to pique my interest.
Yeah.
But then the trailers themselves were actually pretty tight. I mean, one of the things that stood out to me was this being an exorcism-based movie. Those trailers were slick.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so right off the bat, I was like, you know what, I'm in. Let's see.
And not just Russell Crowe, but Russell Crowe doing an Italian accent. I'm like, oh,
We'll talk about that.
let me have that all day long. I'm gonna look. We're gonna I'm gonna just fast forward to the end of this, and I'm just gonna say this movie had a very high floor for me. This movie had to go really, really far to not, get at least a minimum of like 2.5 tacos for me. Like so we're just gonna I am tempering everybody's expectations on what's going on with this, what I'm about to say during this review, but just understand where I'm coming from is this set up well for me. So we'll start there.
Okay.
Well, and to build on what you were saying about the trailer, the trailer really did have me interested.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where when you finally see the film itself, there is part of me that wonders, for small, to build off of what you said, did they pick the moments where his Italian accent worked?
Yes. The answer is yes, because it worked for me and I loved it.
Okay, well, yeah, okay, so let's kind of start at the beginning. The movie, the story is based on an actual human being, Gabriella Amorth, who was a in the papal hierarchy. There is actually, Rome has like the head exorcist. Meaning the person who is in, their exorcisms can be done across the Catholic Church. They have to be endorsed by the Pope. This is like in reality.
And the guy who the Pope says, I'm not going to do it, so we're going to give it to, look, the Pope doesn't do everything. Let's just be fair. Like the Pope is a really good delegator, and he has a guy that he delegates exorcisms to.
Right.
And for a while, it was this Gabrielle Amorth.
Yeah. Very interesting read on his life, if you're ever curious. But so this is a portrayal of one of the cases that Gabrielle Amorth was involved in.
Right.
And so anytime an exorcism movie is based on something real, even more so, I'm in.
Yes. I don't care. One, I want it to be based on something real. I'm in. Two, I don't care how far. Like, I'm not sitting there thinking, in a lot of movies based on a real true story, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, wonder if this. I don't for some reason I don't care. Like with with exorcism movies, I don't go that deep into it. Of like, did that girl actually hang from the ceiling? Obviously, no. The girl did not hang from the ceiling. Like, let's just I understand that.
Yeah.
But did they have this abbey that was deconsecrated long ago, and somebody like was living in the abbey and had an exorcism? Yeah, I believe that's the part I'll believe. That's enough for me. And
okay. Well, and okay, so that explains how you're feeling, because one of the right off the bat, as the movie starts, there are so many things that go on in the first act of the film that I'm sitting there going, okay, wait. We know nothing about how this person, the now dead husband, how did he come into possession of an abbey? Was sort of my it was just sort of like we landed in the middle of something, and that something is this woman and her family are in the process of renovating this abbey that they were left with, which is apparently the only possession they were left with. And that's what gets them all the way to Spain to have this set up. Right. So, I'm doing something I typically don't do, which is to get into the weeds of detail going, wait a minute, but how an abbey? Like, but the narrative is sort of forced into, okay, don't ask any questions. She inherited an abbey.
An abbey. That's enough.
Yeah. And now I will say this was a film that was kind of, it was under 2 hours.
Yeah.
And there were some pieces of it that were kind of like rushed, especially in Act 1.
Yes,
and
for sure.
That's the only act I struggled with.
Yeah.
because once it starts to roll into, okay, the discovery of, what's the mystery here, what's going on, all the way to the end, improve the first third of this film, and I will have enjoyed it 100% completely.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. The only thing that you don't want to take out of the first act of the film, there's two things. The thing one that you don't want to lose from the first act is Russell Crowe driving around on a Vespa. You don't want to lose that. You don't want that. You don't want to lose that. But not just like Russell Crowe driving on a Vespa in Rome, but driving up to the Abbey in Spain on the very same Vespa that they showed him leaving Spain. I will say, or leaving Rome. I will say, right at that moment in the movie theater, if I had been at home, I would have pulled out my phone and done 2 searches. How far is it from Rome to Madrid? I just would have picked a random city in Spain.
Seriously.
And then I would have said, how fast can a Vespa go?
Right.
Because I would want to know how long that. But so it's such great character building there. I love it. And then also just his love. From Act 1, I don't want to lose his sort of like just his mannerisms and his love for coffee and that sort of thing. Like just a lot of fun character building that this guy in real life wasn't remotely that interesting. Like just wasn't. But
well, did you stay to the end credit or to the last part of the credits? There was a photograph of Gabriella Morth that was him. He's like kind of, his little cuckoo that he does. It's a picture of him, and he's sort of sticking his tongue out. Kind of, you can see that there was like, oh, okay, maybe he was a goofy guy,
damn it.
personality wise. Yeah, it happened right at the end of the credits.
Oh, I'm gonna have to watch this movie again. Oh no.
Darn. But yeah, so there were some things like that really sort of jarred me, because again, with the Vespa, my first thought was like, how many gas stops does this guy have to make? And so
I didn't care. Like, how many times did he have to change his tires? Don't care. But I wanted to know. It's such a great little thing. It's such a great little thing.
I'm willing to go through all that because the payoff happens.
Here's the thing: is you realize that you can't. There is like, unless he literally hugs the coast the entire time,
right?
There is no way to do that drive without going over a mountain on a Vespa.
Exactly.
And it's just like, you literally have to just hug the coast the whole time. And even then, I don't think you can get around the Pyrenees. Like, what do you?
Like I said, it was one of those things that just was so glaring that I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to buy this.
But I will agree with you. Other than that, so the first act suffered a little bit from the, okay, we got to set this up a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say, God damn if they didn't set this movie up to seem like they were setting up a franchise. And
yes,
I want that, and I am sad that this movie didn't do well enough at the box office.
I want to talk briefly about that when we get to the last part of the act,
I'm sad. All right, I'm just depressed in myself. Okay.
But no, so one last thing about the first act.
Yeah.
In a film full of overacting, the young bishop in the panel,
oh my God,
just like stop. And then they even tried to do a resolution point with him that just completely fell flat. Yeah. It was like they tried to explain like he went through something, and it was like, okay, whatever.
He went back to Guam or something.
Went
to Guam. The guy's clearly from like California or New York.
Exactly. So things like that had this film on sort of a trepidatious path with me.
Okay.
But then he gets to the Abbey, and there it starts to pick up. The introduction of the young priest, the examination of the family and their condition, and
the examination of the history of Catholicism in the
area.
Yeah,
exactly. And it starts to roll. It starts to. I literally found myself in the second act going, "Okay, here we go.
Yeah,
I'm on firmer ground now."
Yeah.
And man, can you get a kid with a bigger head than you got with with the actor who played the son? That kid, man, I hope he doesn't get typecast into these kind of roles, because he was creepy looking.
Yeah.
So
I don't mind if this kid ends up being just one and done, and if it just some casting agent was like, oh, this is the kid. We saw him in a mall, and like they approached him in a mall, and they were like,
one.
"Hey, you want to be in a movie, kid?" And he's like, "Okay." And then
Yeah.
went and did a movie, and then is never heard from again. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, he has a distinctive look, and
Yes.
the guy, the kind of the creepy guy that plays like the Russian in the Ant-Man movies, and the he's the Russian in the Ant-Man movies. He's the crazy cop in the Dark Knight movie, and he just pops up as like a weird character actor from time to time.
Okay.
I could, if this kid ends up being like a weird character actor, that's cool.
Yeah, I could live with that. I could live with that.
that.
Yeah. So, it's really, the issue here is you have to be willing to get past a few things. Even in Act 2, anytime the kid talks, anytime the demon talks, there are some cool things they do that are quickly squashed by some of the stuff that just doesn't make sense or feel right. I love how they showed you that this, in contrast to the first exorcism we saw, how this one is real. The eyes, right?
Yes.
But then the voice is such that it's like, okay, fine. So I'm still struggling a little bit, but I'm loving the dynamic of the story and the exchange between the demon and the priests and the family. And, then we get into it becomes a mystery more so than just a film about exorcism. Right. And that is where, for me, exorcism movies really work, is when you're going to explore the backstory. And in this case, man, they get deep and they get almost into the realm of Indiana Jones.
Okay.
In terms of what they end up finding.
Yeah.
And so I love that they went that, because this is the kind of movie that if you're going to do this, you're just going to have to go big and over exaggerate, what was found and what happened and the history of the church and so forth and so on. And so that's where I felt like this story works, because it did go for it. It went for it, and tried to make this bigger than what it really was, probably. So
and it worked for me. Like, it worked for, like, this is, and honestly, and I meant it when I said it. This was a really good Act 1 in a in an IP. Like, I would be on board with more of these, but I again, it just didn't. By the way, I just want to go back. The actor that I was saying is David Dastmalchian. Black hair, tall, largish nose, big eyes.
I know the moment I see him, I'm gonna know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah. Like, he's totally
he's everywhere.
He's everywhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So the exorcism, the exorcism just worked. It just worked.
Yeah.
And that's the good. And we actually saw, there was the Pray for the Devil, which came out earlier this year, and both of us were just kind of like, meh. Yeah. And because the exorcism just never, it just never worked. And but here they didn't commit. This one, it was just like, yes, we're committing to this one thing, and this is what we're gonna do, and they did it, and I liked it.
Yeah, there was some cool interplay with the backstory of both Amort and the younger priest, and I didn't feel like that was blown through. They actually used it throughout the course of the rest of the movie, and those are the things where I felt I think this, like, whoever wrote this had written a really good second and third act, and just how do we get them there was their struggle, right? Because
I have a feeling, honestly, I'll tell you, I have a feeling that he wrote a pretty interesting 2 hour and 45-minute movie, and they were like, we need to cut this down, and we need to get to the, like, I bet they had like a 2:15 cut where it was just, there was a lot up front, and they were just like, we need to get to the place.
Well, I enjoyed this cut because it was thin, it was to the point, it didn't really like waste time. By the time you get to the resolution, the only thing that it made me laugh, but I forgave it, is, again, back to your earlier point, this all of a sudden became, Vatican Avengers, kind of set up at the end.
Yeah.
And even, the exchange between the two priests, like, you're ready? It's like, okay, men in black.
Yeah, I'm ready. Give me a Vespa.
Yeah. Hey, maybe Netflix or somebody will pick it up, and
That would be cool.
yeah. But I was pleasantly surprised.
This is what I want Russell Crowe doing. Just
Yeah,
this, and not like this type of thing. Like specifically this. This is
this project.
if these are the kind of things he's happy doing, then just have him do this. Like this is it.
Yeah,
Oh, we're
yeah.
not going
I
to get
think we could
another
have
one.
saved even more time with the whole Franco Nero as the Pope portions.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not
Sadly,
going to
this
hurt it
is
for
not getting. It made $7 million, which is not anywhere
no,
near the 80 million that Mario made this weekend. So
yeah, it's just, this is definitely poorly scheduled against what was already out there, because nothing big opened this weekend.
right.
And so
It actually picked the right weekend. It's just you can't have Renfield in this coming out. Like most people aren't going to both.
well,
You and I are losers, but
darn it, us podcasters.
yeah.
All right, well, Paul, where do you land on our 5 taco scale with a movie like The Pope's Exorcist?
Yeah, you're gonna have to
entertaining
click
as
it.
was?
I'm at 3+ guac. That's where I am.
Yeah.
It's probably just the 3, but I'm adding the guac because of the Vespa.
Gotcha. Well, I'm landing at 3 taco 3. I might give it a yeah, the Vespacine gets the guac. So yeah, totally good experience. And yeah, I probably will revisit it because there were some pretty enjoyable parts. But yeah, nicely done. All right, so that is The Pope's Exorcist. You can find it in theaters. Probably not much longer, but but there it is, or catch it on streaming. So. All right, that brings us to another film that we're going to look at this week that released last week, and that is the movie Renfield. Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage coming together for, again, another film that the trailer just sucked me in. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And it wasn't going to be the case initially, because after the first trailer, I wasn't curious enough about this film. And I was thinking even back then, maybe Paul will take this one. But then the second Renfield trailer came out, and I was like, "Oh no, Awkwafina, I'm there." So, so yeah. So we get to this film, a horror / comedy,
for sure.
From the point of view of the Dracula story, from the point of Renfield. I love the exposition in this movie that we get from Renfield in terms of what his life is like. So it's a lot of fun. The setup.
Yes, sure. The best part of this movie easily is the little, like you said, the exposition, this sort of montage done in the in the guise of the Bela Lugosi
yes,
Dracula. That was amazing.
I
mean, it was like shot for shot Bela Lugosi stuff, and it's like, wow, this is really good. And then there was the main subplot of the Lobos family. And look, it's funny because 2023 so far, I feel like I've said this a lot.
Okay.
But at some point, people need to understand that your movie can be about one thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can make it about more than one thing and it'll work. But sometimes if you make it about more than one thing, guess what? That other thing isn't as good as the one thing that's good and detracts from the whole movie. And this is just a perfect example. And unfortunately, Awkwafina suffers from that.
Yeah.
And it's not Awkwafina's fault. And I think that Awkwafina plays a perfectly fine character. And the reality is that this is 2 movies going on at the same time. One of them is a sort of like a crime, like a Miami Vice type of crime thing, where Awkwafina is trying to bust up a drug cartel, and which has taken over the city as well as the police department, which isn't at all an interesting movie. And the other part, the other movie is Renfield trying to break away from his dependency on Dracula for validation, and finds somebody else, Awkwafina, who is willing to give him that validation, and which is actually a very funny, very genuine and serious movie with Nicolas Cage being insane. And that's a movie that, and it's interesting because this movie is 90 minutes.
Yes.
It's a 90-minute movie, and yet they still manage to shove in 30 minutes of stuff that just not interesting at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And overall, while I enjoyed the movie and a lot of laughs, a lot of great laughs.
Yes.
More and more, I think, when you're going to put Nicolas Cage into something, you just have to go all out.
Yes.
And just play it for all of its humor.
Yes.
Nicholas Hoult has been in a couple of great roles.
For sure.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit stunned at the fact that they slowed the movie down at several points with that second subplot.
Yeah. And it's fascinating because it's 90 minutes. Like
right.
You don't need it. Like if you just knew you were going in for 90 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of that was they were trying I'm not the writer, so I can't say for sure, but part of me thinks what they were trying to do is give Awkwafina and Ben Schwartz screen time. Ben Schwartz is funny as hell in just about everything I see him in, and he's going to get one of these days, he'll soon be labeled as he's the same guy in every movie he's ever in or every show he's ever in. But he's funny. Yeah. And he was Terry Lobo, the son of the crime boss.
Teddy Lobo, yeah.
He is absolutely hilarious in this movie.
You think so?
Because I love his type of humor. I've been watching him since he was with Don Cheadle and I forget her name in what was the name of the series? It was a Showtime series, House of Lies. That's where I was first introduced to Ben Schwartz, and he's just that kooky, crazy, zany guy that, again, he plays the same role just about everything he's in.
Okay.
He brought humor into a scenario that was already funny enough. I think, again, to your point, we could have done without all that, and there still would have been a great film here. And probably even funnier because there were points where it was just like, okay, where are we going with this?
You could remove every single character, every single one that is related to or has anything to do with the Lobo family.
Yeah.
And you can remove the entire rest of the police department and just have Nicholas Hoult happen to save the life of Awkwafina. When he was in his deepest, darkest spot, and just have Awkwafina come in, and she doesn't need to have this weird, like, her father was the police chief and now the police department is completely owned by the drug cartel. Like, none of that is necessary. And you can still have a 90-minute movie that's really good and genuine, like, because the stuff between Renfield and Dracula feels real. The stuff between Renfield and Awkwafina feels real.
Yeah.
Everything else going on in the movie is
sort of wedged in.
Is not real at all, and not interesting and not necessary.
Yeah, I think that give the support group more time.
Sure.
And
you don't even need to do that though. Movie. Like, honestly, you could. I don't know that you would need.
I don't think that would have hurt the film as much as the other storyline did.
Sure.
But
for
yeah,
sure.
so
True.
So, Nicolas Cage is still, he's still plumbing the depths of his talent and comedic humor. He's out of control in this movie in the best of ways.
Yeah.
You just can't go wrong if you're going to cast Nicolas Cage here recently, at least. So where do we land, Paul, on Renfield?
I'm giving this one 2 tacos plus guac. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I went 3. My 3 is simply based on, your old logic of, like, I enjoyed it, may not see it again, but it didn't cause me any harm.
So my logic is if I enjoyed it and will see it again, it's 3 tacos. Gotcha. If I enjoyed it, I probably won't ever see it again. That's the 2 tacos plus guac. That's my logic. But yeah. I do think anybody who goes into this movie, like, I would be interested to, just go in and watch it watch everything that Nicholas Hoult is involved in,
Yeah.
and everything else, and keep that in the back of your head as you're watching it, and think of, you know, I'm just curious if I'm being too harsh on it, but I don't think I am. I think,
No, I don't think you are.
yeah,
My first exposure to Nicholas Hoult was the movie Warm Bodies,
okay,
and I that was one where I enjoyed it and probably won't see it again. But he's in everything I've seen him since. He's good. So
yeah. I don't know that I've seen Warm Bodies, which means that my introduction to him was probably with him, you know, as Hank in the yeah, First Class. Actually, so yeah, First Class came out before Warm Bodies. Did you not see First Class?
no, I didn't. Yeah. Well, no, I did, but I don't
Okay.
remember him in it. So,
Oh,
but in terms of,
he
you
was
know, he was a
Beast.
standout. Yeah, no, I recall that now.
Okay.
But I guess in terms of him carrying his own film,
Okay.
Warm Bodies was the first one, and that's
Okay.
a zombie in reverse film.
Oh.
So check it out. Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
it's an interesting zombie premise. So,
Interesting. Well,
all right.
damn it if you didn't hook me on that.
All right. Well, that brings us to our weekly look into the brain of Paul as
Yeah.
we get to what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah.
And man, sometimes I love your segment just because of movie posters.
This is going to be one of those. And so this movie, A Wounded Fawn, you can find on Shudder. So just you know, but I know that everybody's looking to track it down. Here's an interesting thing. So this has been on my list since last year sometime. It came to Shudder last year. There's a guy. We're going to do a backstory alternate thing. There's a guy by the name of Josh Rubin, who my spouse and I, we subscribed to Dropout, which was if you recall, College Humor. They set up a streaming service, and it's called Dropout. And
Okay.
on the streaming service, they have one of the shows that they have. It's called Game Changer, where it's a game show, but the rules to the game show change every time. Like there's and the contestants have no idea what the show is going to be. And the greatest episode ever of Game Changer was it featured this guy Josh Rubin, who I had never heard of until I saw him on this Game Changer show. And it's him and then these two other guys who appear on a lot of things on the Dropout platform.
Okay.
Their best show is this thing called Dimension 20, which is a D&D show. And so the two guys from the Dimension 20 show plus Josh Rubin do this thing where they are given prompts and they have to do sound effects associated with the prompts, and not necessarily sound effects. Sometimes it's just they're given scenarios and they have to kind of act out the scenarios with and there's usually some kind of sound effect. Anyway, Josh Rubin was amazing in this. And then I turn on this movie that I had heard about through another podcast where they were like, hey, the craziest horror movies that have come out in 2022, you know, check out A Wounded Fawn. That's how I heard about this. And I turn on the movie and holy shit, I had never seen Josh Rubin in anything before, and he's in this movie. So like I was like, oh my god, this is a guy I'd never heard of outside of this thing on Dropout, and he's in this movie, and this movie's completely fucked up. I'm just like, he doesn't make any sound effects or anything. I'm only just telling you this because I was really excited to see Josh Rubin in this movie that's totally fucked up. So the movie opens with an auction. It's a hoity-toity auction, and they're bidding on this this piece of art that has some kind of strong feminine religious undertones to it. And Josh Rubin is bidding for somebody he's on the phone and he's bidding on behalf of that person. And then he ends up losing the auction. And so you're like, where is this going? He shows up on the doorstep of the person who won the auction and, says, hey, look, the person who I was bidding for actually regrets not bidding higher. He'll double your price. And if you'll let him buy it, and I will give, and blah, 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 blah. Fast forward to them agreeing to do it and then him proceeding to kill her. And you know,
Wow.
and I'm in. It's like, wow, okay, he's a psychopath, and that's very interesting to me. And he, you know, the next scene is with a woman who is talking to her friends at an art gallery, and we find out that she works at the art gallery, and she's talking about how she's going out to a cabin with a guy that she met at the art gallery, you know, some art collector, blah blah blah. Fast forward about 10 minutes, and we find out that it's him, and we're like, oh no, this isn't going to end well for her.
Yeah.
And then we start to find out that he's being told to do these horrible things by a demon who happens to not be. It's not the demon. Okay, no, because there actually are two demons in this movie. This demon is the female protector demon, and she is antithesis to the male. The male you know, domineering demon that controls our bad guy, serial killer bad guy. And I mean, this movie, like, that's what this movie ends up being. Just, you know, it literally is just, you know, for lack of, you know, to dumb it down, it's a battle of the sexes, and it's a really big time revenge flick where it's like, it's clear that these two demons are like have been battling throughout time through avatars or something like that, and that these just happen to be the two people that they, you know, they've both finally landed on, and she uses her powers to resurrect some of the women that he has killed in the past, and yada yada yada. It's really fucking weird.
Wow.
And it's really fucking weird. Like, this is genuinely falls heavily into the what the hell did I just watch, in that there's just it's just chock full of symbolism. The symbolism isn't that hard to follow, but also is not at all explained and not like beating you over the head with it. It
Gotcha.
Like, you have to have a kind of understanding of like some, you know, occults or you know, just weird religions of yore, and you have to just be willing to believe that, you know, this guy could you know, be doing these horrible things, believing that he's being controlled by a demon. You have to also believe that, you know, movies like to have lots of dream sequences, and you never really know where you are in a movie.
Yeah.
You know, so it's on Shudder. It's pretty gory.
Okay.
It's not, you know, it's not for the faint of heart. It's extremely well acted. I will say that it is extremely well acted. If you like symbolism, if you're just somebody who likes to sit down and like really dig into the symbolism of that are thrown into movies, it's actually quite an interesting text from that standpoint. But, you know, that, you know, it's not great.
Yeah.
But there's a lot here to unpack and to be weirded out about. And so, bravo, A Wounded Fawn.
Sounds like your kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as Paul said, you can find the movie on Shudder. Make sure you check it out. And as always, week to week, come back and find out what kind of weirdness Paul is going to share with us. Never a dull moment.
It's always
what
weirdness.
the hell did I just watch? Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to week number 2 of a Cinema by Jen. Again, my wife Jenna has been introducing me to films that she wishes I'll see because our taste in films is quite different. And this week we are taking a look at the film Emily the Criminal, a recent release. This was last year, I believe. Netflix film. And right away, you say Aubrey Plaza, I'm in. She's such a favorite of mine from the comedic world.
Yeah.
And to find her in films where she is able to show her dramatic chops is always fun. Now, Paul, you've seen this film.
I have.
And I would not have been surprised if somewhere along the way you would have said, Sergio, you need, and I think you did say you need to see this film.
I did.
Short.
Yes.
But it didn't feel rushed.
No.
The narrative played out beautifully. And we're dealing with a person who is in dire straits financially, who has, you know, things going on her permanent record as a result of some a DUI and some other things that she did.
Yeah.
And that's the simple setup. She's trying to find her way.
Yeah.
Boy, I tell you what, from the setup of the $200 in an hour that she gets thrown by a friend, I was hooked even before she went to the meet, to the thing the next day.
Yeah,
And the gradual build as you see her go the route of, for her, least resistance, right?
right.
Was awesome, and
Yeah,
she played it so well.
yeah.
Theo Rossi, who plays Yusef, I'm familiar with from Sons of Anarchy. He was
Okay.
one of the main characters there. Fantastic job. And boy,
5 years ago, by the way, that's Riz Ahmed, but that's neither here nor there.
not Riz Ahmed, it's Theo Rossi.
No, I'm
Trust me.
saying if this movie had been made 5 years
Oh,
ago,
got it.
it
It
would
would
have
have
been
been,
Riz
got it.
Ahmed in that
Good point.
role.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, I see what you're saying. Gotcha. I'm with you. But the kicker, like the punch in the gut moment, is she makes a decision at the sort of denouement of the story, and you manage to be shocked by it, and you shouldn't be.
No,
This is what I loved about this film. I was watching it, and I was so taken in by it that I lost track of time, and I was like, oh, we're getting to the
yeah,
end of the story. And I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but there
right.
comes a decision point in this film, and she makes a very, very, very I'm going to say cool decision, because you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. And then you see the result of that decision, and it all seems okay, even though
It's
by the
really
title,
not.
she's, who she
So
is.
the two thoughts on that. One, I mean, anybody who's surprised by the decision wasn't paying attention to all of the decisions that she made throughout the movie.
Well,
Like,
no, okay, go ahead.
I understand what you're saying, but yeah, like it's like the decision is very much in line with where she
Right.
took the character,
But you
and where
keep
the
wanting
character
her to not, I guess, is
yes,
what I'm saying.
yes, 100% correct, and that leads to my point number two, which is somebody on a group that you and I are both involved in, posted about this movie 2 or 3 months ago and said, "Oh, I just finally got to this. It's so good. It's so good."
Yeah.
I could have watched another hour of Aubrey Plaza in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
To which I replied, there is no way I could have survived another hour of Aubrey Plaza making horrible choice after horrible choice, and barely surviving the consequences of those horrible choices. Like I was like, the entire, like, from act 2 on, I'm just like, you can't, like, and the thing is that it's not like one of the things I have complained about in movies before, and I will always complain about in movies, is that I have a hard time at times when characters just make dumb choices. Like, and that might be, and I've even implied that might be why I have a hard time with slasher films, because it's like the choices that the people make are just so blatantly stupid that it's like, no, like nobody would do that in that scenario. But that's not this. This is literally like Emily just keeps having her choices almost made for her, because she, like, what else is she going to do? You know, like you said, it's literally constantly her decisions are the bad choices, except that they are the choices of least resistance.
Right, exactly.
And because she's constantly making the choice of least resistance, you could say, okay, well, that's a bad choice, but I get it, and it's just constantly, oh God, that's a bad choice, but I get it. And only so much of that a heart can take, honestly.
No, I get what you're saying. This is that movie, though, that kind of movie that proves. I looked up the budget. $2 million gets you this kind of movie because of the writing. The screenplay for this movie apparently made the shortlist for the Academy Awards that year. And while not nominated, it was highly recognized as being a powerful script. And with absolutely no budget in comparison to most films, it didn't draw a lot of money, but it's recognized as a very successful film in terms of its story and its accomplishment as a movie. And again, Aubrey Plaza, dude, I love it when she surprises us with performances that are out of her norm.
Yep.
And this certainly does it. This actually,
this even tops her making water play jokes with Jason Statham. So
yeah, no, this this is a powerful performance that I really hope people will see.
But here's my question. Genuine. What is the scenario that Jen watches this and you're just like, meh? Like, I'm assuming she saw it somewhere else. Like she was in another building or something.
No, she saw it here at home.
Okay.
It was just one of those things where life was so busy that
Okay.
I wasn't able to. And again, when you know the way our time is, we're so committed to like series that when we do sit down to watch something, it's rarely a movie.
Okay.
And so that's been the nice part about this journey as we've begun it, is that, you know, we're going to do our best to see the film together, even though she's already seen it. This one I did on my own, but so we're already at 50%. But but no, she. Hey, listen, I don't have any shame admitting that often in my life of 30 some odd years with her, I've said no and then realized I should have said yes. So this is a great example. So
excellent.
Yeah. So I will shoot you a list of titles of what's coming next, because I think by now you're probably curious about what the rest of the list looks like.
Sure.
So absolutely, make sure you check out Emily the Criminal. You can find her on Netflix. It is well worth the time. A quick 90 minutes, but man, what a story.
Yeah.
Which brings us to just about the end of another episode of Real to Real Talk. And Paul, are you ready to talk about your idea? I haven't rolled anything, but I love it. I want you to explain it.
So we're gonna do a thing called I'm calling it. I don't know. It's called Tubi World. Tubi word salad. Word salad. And
Gotcha.
So I have mentioned Tubi in the past as being a great source for what the hell did I just watch movies. And just in general, honestly, not being facetious or anything, Tubi's an amazing source for cinema. Okay. It's recognized as such within the movie geek universe because it has movies in its repertoire that like are just like, I didn't even know this existed, you know, like just, you know, completely random movies with big time actors and, you know, that like, it's just like, I have no way of ever watching this anywhere because it never even released on DVD, but here it is on Tubi and it's free. That's the most amazing thing. Yes, you need to watch commercials throughout the movie and the commercials are poorly timed, but it's free. And so, you know, it's okay, buddy. You can sit through a commercial. You'll be all right.
Right.
You will be all right. And so the fact of the randomness of the catalog already, I thought adding a little chaos to the randomness would be fun. And so what we're going to do, and you can't do it directly in the Tubi search bar because the Tubi search bar is looking specifically for movie titles. So if it doesn't find anything related to your movie title, it's not going to kick anything back. But what you can do is you could go to Google and let Google figure out what Tubi movie you're referencing. And so I have 3 categories: adjective, noun, and genre. And so, you know, and you roll a 10-sided dice, and whatever you get for your adjective, you type into Google's browser Tubi movie, and then your adjective, noun, genre. And you know, for example, you could get sad vampire comedy, you know, or lonely cowboy romance, you know, just 3 words. And here's the thing, and the reason why it works on Google is because Google will just totally ignore one of those 3 words and pick up on 2 of them and be like, okay, this is what we're going with, or even one of them and just be like, okay, this is what we're going with. And so you'll most of the time you'll get something. I think it needs a little tweaking. My list probably needs a little tweaking, but we can go with it and see how it works and then you know, adjust it. But I'm hoping this, I know that this will be fun. I know this is going to be fun. It's just a question of, you know, how fun.
No, I love the idea. I was in the middle of a meeting when you sent the text, and I was reading it because it was way more entertaining than my meeting. And no, I'm excited for this because it's another sort of option to go alongside our Netflix roulette stuff.
Right.
Here's a source of cinema, like you said, that you feel is strong. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm all for it. I'm excited. And so our plan, Paul, is to do our first round of 2B Word Salad next week.
Next week, yeah. The release schedule next week is tough. All right,
Okay.
that's what I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it tough. And also, I can only see one movie next week.
Gotcha.
I know that you wanted to see Chevalier, and I support that, but that's not the movie I'm going to go see next week.
Okay.
So, if they're the movies that are the top line movies, we'll call them, that are coming out, is Beau is Afraid is expanding.
Yeah.
Chevalier, which I actually am interested in seeing, but I really want to see Beau is Afraid. It's Ari Aster. It's the guy who
Sure.
did Midsummer and anyway, if you know Midsummer, you know what I'm talking about. And then it has the Guy Ritchie movie, The Covenant, which I love Guy Ritchie, but I'm just not at all interested in a Jake Gyllenhaal Guy Ritchie war movie. It's just not, I don't know. And then To Catch a Killer, Evil Dead Rise, and that's not doing it for me.
I have a personal issue with that series. You just don't take a classic and try to make it serious.
So, and then To Catch a Killer is the other. You could make an argument for Chevalier, The Covenant, or Evil Dead Rise, but I'm only seeing one. I only have the chance to see one. I'm going to Beau is Afraid.
Okay.
And I want Beau is Afraid to be my what the hell did I just watch? So honestly, I'm hoping that you'll pick something else so
I
that
will
we have a real quick review or whatever. And
sure.
then,
Well, we'll do our 2B Word Salad. We'll hear from you on your film, and then I'll bring one as well. And
if you want to see Beau is Afraid, you can absolutely, and then we'll just we'll figure it out. But next week, what the hell did I just watch? 100% is going to be Beau is Afraid, based on everything I've heard about it. It's going to be an apropos inclusion to that. So
all right, well, if you guys want to figure out what the final product is going to be, check out next week's episode. We have a lot of fun already planned. And so Paul, as always, thank you so much for all you do for the show. It's always a fun time. We'll look forward to next week. For all of you out there, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it, whether you're watching live or you're picking up on the video on demand here on YouTube. We appreciate it. And more than that, we remind you, as we always do, you're awesome, you're amazing, and the world is a better place because you are in it. We will see you next week on Real to Real Talk. Good night, everybody.